The drivers are ready, the cars are ready, and everyone else is ready. Tonight, LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network have your coverage of the 2019 running of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health. Tonight, it's the Daytona 250 to kick off the first of 36 races for the quest to try and win the championship. Good evening, everyone. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside me in the booth tonight will be Rachel Whiteford. Hugo Wee is in the director's seat for tonight's action here at Daytona International Speedway. The World Center of Racing will see the best drivers in one of the biggest lineups of drivers, all set to go to start off the 2019 season. More than 20 drivers brand new to the series ready to take the starting grid for tonight, and a lot of fast drivers amongst them. 11 returnees and one driver looking to defend a dominant championship, Rachel.
Absolutely, and looking forward to a great race tonight and seeing exactly how things will pan out here. The real race at Daytona had some moments, so we're looking forward to seeing exactly how this one will play and how the drivers will handle the track.
Indeed we will, of course. Lots of new drivers, but one of the more notable returnees for tonight, the man who won his dual race, Andrew Farnyards, coming off a 10-win season, part of 30 running races on his way to winning the 2018 running of the championship. A very powerful driver we've seen in multiple different kinds of cars. But of course, in this race, the pressure is on here on the iRacing Esports Network to try and do the same this year, especially with a lot more competitive drivers potentially lined up for the whole season to try and take away the chance for the title.
Absolutely, and more competitive drivers means a more open championship, which can only be good for us and you, the viewers, of course. We're looking forward to a great one, of course. This is the one track where everybody has a chance, and everyone knows that. So Daytona is going to be a real open book here. We're not thinking this is a track that suits the mile-and-a-half experts. It's not a short track expert place. This is somewhere anyone can win, where circumstance can be the one that decides the race, and we end up with somebody taking this possibly for the first time.
Indeed we do in this one, and could see that happen here tonight. Drivers meeting currently wrapping up for the set drivers. 34 drivers set to take the grid tonight. The first two drivers on the front row set by single qualifying from last week. Wow, the second row will be from the duels rather from last week. The next top 26 afterwards set by their spots in the duels. Everyone afterwards set by the registration position in this 100-lap race here at Daytona International Speedway. Just a couple moments from the starting grid here, and it's time for the question of who will come away as a champion at the World Center of Racing and survive 100 laps of racing. The drivers are all set to go and about to take the racetrack here on LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network for the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health. It's time to take a look at those starting drivers as that grid gets all set to go. As mentioned a moment ago, Connor Horn is on the pole for today, along with Brian Macklin, the top two qualifiers in single car qualifying last week. Jason Jacoby won his duel for row number 1, while Andrew Farnyards will start on his outside after winning his duel. The drivers behind them are Jeremy Bazemore and Greg Omo, while Jeremy Redenberg, the first of two Redenbergs for tonight, will race alongside Thomas George. Rounding out your top 10 tonight, Jonathan Kendall and Daniel E. Eberhardt. Rachel?
Certainly is, and Eberhard looking like he could be a strong one in tonight's race, of course. Looking now towards where the next set of drivers is. I'm stalling because I've lost my point of the list. Jeremy Miller in 11th place, with Anthony Fredericks in 12th, Nicholas Caldwell, Brian Lambert, John Fowler in 15th. Rhett McBride in 16th place, with Tom Morano in 17th, Caleb Wheatley and Kyle Kamer in 19th, with Skylar Shackelford in 20th.
21st is going to be Sean Callis, while Kurt Redenberg starts in the 22nd spot. Andrew T. Jones will start alongside Scott Brotherton. Both drivers looking to get up to the front quickly, while Joker Johnson looks to not joke around, starting 25th, with Bryce Whitson Jr. starting on his outside. Chad Chowan and Brad Bohr starts in the top 28 with Brandon Johnson and Josh Gerlach rounding out the top 30. The remaining 4 drivers in the grid tonight, Eric Stanford, Brian Chambliss, along with Jared Astrup and Jay Horton. Those are your 34 drivers all set to take the track for the 2019 running of the Daytona 250 here on LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Pit window for tonight, about 40 laps of fuel, 38 to 42. Estimated pit stops expected to be about 2 green flag pit stops. The question is, though, will it get to that point? We've seen many times in real life, as well as in the virtual world, that the real green flag stops might not come if the field has the cautions, Rachel.
Certainly is, and that could be interesting where they fall. Do they fall at the place where you need to get fuel? That's going to be critical. You can have a caution drop, but it's just not in that window, and it becomes a do I take it, do I don't? Well, they've got no limits on it. Might as well. You never know what will happen.
You never know what will happen, and you never know if you're going to be the one standing in victory lane at Daytona. Connor Horns, the control car, starting on the inside line. On the outside row is Brian Macklin. Once more, the number 24 starting alongside the number 30 with a 3 and 88 following on back. Who's going to come away with the first victory? Who's going to try and have the best run? Connor Horn approaches the restart zone for today. He starts things off for the Daytona 250. We're underway here on LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network.
Great start by the 2 cars on the top. Brian Macklin there and the 88 behind him of Feyenaz. What a move down the top side. Just really launched well. Rare you see the top side go well so soon in one of these races. And we talked about this in a couple of the other races, but well, the car's dropping down now kind of breaks up what I was about to say, but you get 3 or more cars on the top side that really hook, you can go places, but it's got to be at least 3. Really helps if you've got 4 or 5, but it's all about hooking it properly. At the bottom, you can cruise and have an advantage. It's a shorter way around the racetrack. Top side, not so much. It's longer, you got to work harder for that. Right now, Omo and the 9er George, the 90 machine of Eberhardt. They're trying to do something, but not many options for them.
Well, part of the stigma, of course, is you have a shorter radius on the bottom. However, it's only the fastest line if you have the most cars. Right now, just 5 drivers in the top half of the field still on that outside line. Some of the drivers letting guys down to the bottom was Jeremy Bazemore, for example. Greg Olmo thinking about trying to cut in front of him. Not going to have that chance this time as Thomas George cuts in towards the bottom now. 4 drivers still stuck in no man's land. Anthony Fredericks almost sent it down inside the top 10 to the bottom side. But one of the main things to note, of course, this is a fixed series for the RealSimRacing Cup Series for Full Throttle. And with the fixed setup for the Daytona International Speedway, if you are the back driver for a draft, you will fall off and quick.
Speaking of falling off quick, we've got one driver who's already unfortunately in that position. That is going to be number 11 of Jared Astrup. He's fallen off the back of his pack already. I think he's already hoping for a caution because right now he's about 2-3 tenths back, which is in that window of falling away. But with the upper lane still being there, he's managed to hook onto the 6th car there of Horton. But he's going to be worried. He's the first car that's really got the cold air behind him. He needs to be cautious to try and keep something going.
And you see him still at that back line, currently going from the top to the bottom because the higher line is a bit faster if you have the cars down the backstretch. However, of course, with that shorter radius, it's a faster line to go around at the bottom through the corners. Hence what we'll see for a lot of drivers in qualifying when they go up to the middle line here at Daytona, as drivers currently work their way around to lap number 4 of 100 here today. As most of the drivers have worked their way to the bottom so far, just 4 drivers stuck on the high side at this point. One of the drivers still stuck up there is Brian Whitson Jr., who's still trying to side draft in front. In fact, Joker Johnson towards his right rear.
Yeah, it certainly did, and they're trying to get something going here with this, but what a name there, Joker Johnson, love that. Yeah, they're doing their best to keep this nice and straight. The entire field mostly on that low side. Front group, we're seeing a breakaway already. Top 5 there of Horn, Jacoby, Fernaz, Macklin, and Bazemore. They're all just splitting off here. They're hooked up a little better than the cars behind them. They're just moving around a bit too much. Whereas those 5 cars, they're hauling and it's keeping them out of the danger zone. They stay nice and smooth. They work together. They're at the end of this race, and that's the critical part. I mean, Daytona is one of those things where you got to be either in the top 3 or 4. or the back 3 or 4 to really be safe. Everywhere else is kind of the danger zone, and you're at the risk of being eaten alive by anybody. The only safe space at Daytona is the pit road.
You say that, but RealSimRacing has something else to say involving that. But of course, you mentioned Jason Jacoby in second, of course, broadcasting this race on his YouTube stream at JJacoby88. He in fact has basically a full car set up with the driver's suit for every kind of race he has done. We've seen it before in the various different series. High price tag, of course, to set those kind of things up. Actually had a domino suit at one point in that number 3 machine that we've seen in so many different series over the past few years.
Yeah, I remember seeing that one. That was fantastic, and hopefully Domino's liked it, I gotta say. Right now, 23 in the 90 side by side at the moment. Eberhardt, and that was 23. Yeah, that's Miller. So those two still holding on, and I've got to give the 90 props here. He's hanging out there. There's nobody with him, but he's doing his best.
And so far, just one driver's elapsed, mind you, Connor Horn, who is also a fairly competitive driver. One of those drivers that in any series you want to keep an eye on that leads this pack at the moment. And now he's going to have to deal with Jason Jacoby to his right rear, nearly turns him. Jacoby wants to try and get the lead, trying to go side by side. Farnyards ditches him. Macklin tries to work with Jacoby. As they near go side by side, Jacoby gets ditched, and he'll drop his way to the back.
Yeah, it certainly does, and that's not what I wanted to have happen there, but he's going to have to go backwards here. Try and hold on, as it really is trying to shake things up. That 3 car in a very bad spot. Just falling down now. No support behind him other than that 1 to Nisha's 90. Oh, the 3 found a spot in front of 91. That's a friend to remember for later.
Greg Olmo, the one letting him down. That drops him all the way down to 6th and shows if you don't have friends, it's hard to take the lead. And right now we've seen exactly why you want to have at least a couple cars on that high side to try and make the pass. Now Andrew Farnyards, the defending series champion, has cycled up to 2nd, Macklin 3rd, Jeremy Bazemore 4th, and Thomas J. George rounding out the top 5 in that number 9 machine as they continue to stay single file basically for the entire top 10. But as this has all been cycling out, basically the top 5, 6, or 7 cars have started to try and slowly break away, which can happen if you let yourself fall about 2/10 back of the car in front of you.
Yes, it does, and that's a big impact, but once you've got this big kind of line hookup, you're in a pretty good position to keep that in fairly simplistic terms. I want to keep looking back towards the rear now. We've got a 2-car drop off the 6 to 44. Horton and Rittenberg have dropped right off the back there. It might be the safe place if we have a massive crash, actually, so it's not the worst idea.
Major checkup, pardon me, there for Daniel Eberhardt. Remember, you mentioned him on the high side. Nearly cut down in front of the Tom Moreno and ended up holding up that entire bottom and top side. Kyle Camber now working with them, but that might lose the driver's 12th on back, 15th on back, the draft.
Yeah, that's an awkward position to be in, but they keep going backwards. They need to find somewhere to slot in, and they kind of took the risk.
He has now slotted down with Camber now, with Moreno falling back to 17th on the track. However, that's that window where if you don't get lined up and you don't work together for about 5-10 laps, this is where you can lose that lead group, even at a track like Daytona. You want to stay lined up. That's why so many drivers stay on the bottom side here. And we've seen so many opportunities. Rhett McBride, forced underneath the O-line, up in the second group, just made a pass and forced the 22 out of line.
Certainly did. We're starting to get a little frisky now. People have found their feet. We're about 11 laps in here, and this is where they're starting to really think, it's time, how about quarter of the way through this fuel run, time to start really understanding what the car's doing, time to see who's ready to dance and where we want to go. And this is when we tend to find that problem window.
In fact, it is, and so far, no major problems for drivers. Just 2 drivers have lost one of the 2 main packs at this point, and everyone basically single file at this point. Of course, we're early on, coming up to lap number 12 of 100 here. There is the possibility that we've talked about a little bit off air before today's race, that we've seen it sometime in some races at Daytona, that you see drivers come down at lap 20 for an early pit stop when you have a race where it looks like the race isn't going to go to caution. Do you see that potentially happening in this kind of a race, especially with everyone essentially in the top 30, all basically within the span of about 3 seconds?
Yeah, it certainly is. And well, it's one of those situations where it's very fast to appear at Daytona. And you've got to be very careful to read the traffic, because this is what's going to give you that moment to decide, go low, go high, back out the gas, do something.
And pit.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't want to be left alone to pit, obviously, as well. That's kind of the window where you want to make sure you have friends as well that come in, because while it's early on to talk about this, if you get ditched when you go in the pits, it's going to be hard to keep up with the draft once you come out. As, hold on 1 second, speaking of drafts, Ryan Macklin working with Jason Jacoby alone with Olmo now on the high side. Moving in for the bump is Jeremy Bazemore as he tries to go to the back bumper of Macklin. Gives him a shot in the middle of the corner. As Farnyards and Horn still stay at the front 2 spots, Macklin wants to try and get a bonus point. You get 1 bonus point for each for when you lead a lap in this series. Macklin can't get the bonus point this time. Connor Warren continues to lead, has led all 13 completed laps so far.
If the 91 could hook up with them, I think he'd have a chance, but with just the 3 of them, they've got a good opportunity, but they really have to stay hooked very well. The bottom line a bit spaced out, so they're not really quite as organized as they could be. That 3 isn't quite on the bumper there. Jacoby just not quite up on the back of the 30 and the 1, so it needs to work a little bit harder. Oh, protection coming now as Connor Horn looking to try and pull forward the outside lane there. And in fact, people often think of that as a blocking technique. It isn't. You're actually helping the lane you move to. You pull them forward, so when you move back down again, they lose their pull and they stall. So what you're doing is you're stalling out both lanes by helping them ultimately. As here comes the 88, wants to go to the front now, drops 24 on his own. Connor Horn left with no friends as the 88 of Bernaz goes to the lead.
And Farnyards drops down in front of Horn. New race leader, the number 88, the defending series champion, as now the top 2 drivers on the high side, now they're on their own. There is a gap between Jeremy Rittenberg and Jason Jacoby, where Bazemore drops down, but Macklin also going to get some help with the checkup of the 1. Serwin files back in, but Farnyards comes out of turn 4 and will get his first lead lap of the season to get his first bonus point of the season.
Yeah, nearly did, but well, it's a good position to be in right now. It's settled down for a moment, but I'm sure it'll get exciting in no time at all. A little bit further back, though, still got some 2-wide racing in this beast as a couple of cars, including the 90, still not willing to give up there on the high side.
And one strategy for some drivers when they see things get dicey is, I'm going to go to the back, I want to avoid the big one. Do you think that's something Daniel Eberhardt might be trying to think of doing, to try and go to the back for as long as he's been on that high side?
Could be exactly like that, but it's a great practice to be in, and it's a great place to be comfortable. It takes time to be comfortable up there. I think that's why a lot of guys don't like running on the bottom side, is they feel more comfortable having that line at the bottom of them, whereas it's a much more difficult job to position yourself on the high side. So the only way to get comfortable is to be up there with traffic below you.
And right now they continue to drop on back, as now it looks like Eberhardt said, enough's enough. I'm going to drop some slot into 18th, and he ditches Tom Moreno, who was trying to work with him, who will have to try and file back in. The drivers that have lost the draft so far, there's been 3. Eric Stanford, Jay Horton, Kurt Renenberg. Everyone else, they're all within this big, giant pack of cars, all the way to as far back as just 3 seconds.
Yeah, certainly is, and it's unfortunately the way it's going to play in this game that these guys have to just play the strategy that's dealt to them, and unfortunately Daytona is one of those races where that tends to happen. I will say though, if we get a green flag stop off this run, the percentage chance of us going green to the end of this race just doubles, because once you get a green flag stop at Daytona, you end up with 4s and 5s rather than a pack of 40 cars, and suddenly the chance of a crash is far reduced.
Coming up to lap 19 of 100 this time by, and every single time it seems just about, Jason Jacoby has continuously poked his way towards the outside line. The thing is, though, no one wants to give him a run or give him a shot. It looks like Jacoby wants to go. He's not being patient here with everyone single file basically throughout the entire top 20.
Exactly, and that's unfortunate. Well, not unfortunately, but that's what the strategy is going to dictate for most of this race, is staying single file. Bit of a kerfuffle there at the back of this lead pack. The 90 once again not ready to give up on that high side. Oh, we've got to give him the participation award for this one. Eberhard is just doing everything to stay up there.
And has to duck back down. Low. Yes, indeed. Goes low now. Goes back up high. It looks like he's found some friends. Kyle Kammer, Andrew T. Jones to work with towards that high line. Moving towards the bottom once more to try and get the run, it appears, on the back of Skylar Shackelford in that Wrangler machine. Of course, lots of these drivers, as mentioned, new to the series and or did not record points throughout last season. Some of the drivers we've been seeing dicing around are those sort of drivers that we've seen. Eberhard, though, you have to remember, had 3 wins and a pole last season on his way to being a part of the Championship 4 as the teammate to Farnyards in the PowerTech.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's going to have to work a lot harder really to bring the fight to this track. And it's a big job. Unfortunately, it requires so much work, and you got to have teams that work between each other. And there's a lot of rivalries in a series where you have these very individual tracks, it's called. The tracks where you race the track. Whereas Daytona, you've got to race each other. Track is an irrelevance almost. You've got to race other people, which means you suddenly have to look at friends with your enemies. And I'm not going to Darrell Waltrip with frenemies comment, and I already did. Darn it.
Honestly, I might have missed that one if it was during the Daytona 500, but the group has now shifted to 17 drivers in the lead lap on lap 21. So some drivers, if they wanted to, could come in right now, but again, that's a gamble, because 1, you're going to have the potential, if you don't have a multitude of friends, to lose the draft. 2, if there's a caution, there's the chance that you fall all the way to the back of the field if you were to come in early, which is why a lot of drivers have started to shift their strategy from past years to just running it all the way to empty.
Exactly. I think you do want to come in a little earlier on that cycle because you're not going to lose the lead lap by pitting at green at Daytona. So there's a very good chance you could pit here, you can come back out again. If you do it early in the session, a caution comes out, you filter to the front of the pack, and the tyre strength and quality is not that important as we've got a run here towards the front. The 3 leads the charge of Jason Jacoby.
Jacoby once more.
Jacoby.
Yes, Jacoby getting ditched though by Macklin. So Macklin and Bazemore thought about it again, but Jacoby being left on his own as he'll go back to the inside. So it looks like a couple cars want to try and get that high side working. It's just no one has decided to come up there yet. Usually we see that potentially come up, more so in the final 10 laps of a fuel run when it comes to a track like Daytona, it seems, especially in most recent seasons.
No, absolutely, and it's one of those situations where you've got to really hope that you've got the right people around you to do that, and there is coordination needed, because otherwise you end up in that spot where suddenly you've got a bunch of people who are all pitting, and you pick the wrong line to be in, or you pick the wrong position to be in, and it's you've got to build that trust. It's like the working together thing. You've got to be able to say to the guys around you, hey, let's go together. We're going to go this lap, next lap, and you've got to have at least 4, preferably more cars with you to stay relevant in this race.
You do, for sure at this point. And right now, everyone's at that point where they can just drive together. Basically, the lead group is essentially still about 29 cars, give or take. Remember that effect, though, at the back of the field. Joker Johnson is the latest victim of falling off the back of the pack. Tom Moreno, who's been shuffled around from 17th, also could lose the draft, pending a major checkup.
Yeah, absolutely, and you've got to be very careful not to drop that draft as the clouds have really come out here over Daytona.
Yeah. The
whole appearance of the track has changed, and it's going to affect the grip levels for these guys. It's going to be a little slicker as it gets colder, so they're going to have to be a little bit more careful about where they're positioning their cars.
And normally you don't talk much about handling at a super speedway, except especially for this year's Daytona 500 in real life. On top of the grip levels going higher, the speed levels can potentially go up, meaning you can run at higher temperatures with a fixed setup. Normally you don't have to worry about that unless you're the pusher. And that's where that worry might come in if, say, you're riding someone's back bumper for like 10, 20 laps straight.
Certainly, and it's all about the right sort of caution level to take here. And of course, if it stays more overcast like this, you're going to be able to hook up a little bit longer. Not much, but a little bit longer for that bumper ahead of you, so take advantage whilst you can of these conditions.
Right now, air temp 70 degrees. Track temp has just crashed about at least 4 degrees Fahrenheit in the past couple minutes here at this 2.5 mile super speedway. As the top 5 group continues to pull away. Lap 26 of 100, just past the quarter-way mark of the 2019 running, the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health opener here at Daytona. Of course, a lot of preparation coming to try and make sure this season goes off with a hitch, as we have a hitch in the back. Jared Astrup has been spun. Caution flag is out on lap 26, coming to lap 27.
Yeah, certainly is. We've got a bit of a turnaround here, and it's going to give us that reset. It's a little early, but this could count as our first window, because if we've got a 40-40-20, we've got a 26, so now we've got 2 stops. Everyone's good on fuel, one more after this.
And it looks like it was contact in turn 3 here on LSR TV, but that severely damaged number 11 had a bit of help, it looked there from Gerlach too. And then bye-bye race cars you see on your replays.
Yeah, when it happens at Daytona, it happens big.
And normally you don't want to be pushed in the corners, especially with certain types of bodies for the Cup cars, because the Ford has a bit of a rounded point, the Chevy a pointed tip on that front bumper.
It certainly is, but the bumper really isn't as big a difference as you would think. It's the one common mistake I see from a lot of drivers at super speedway is when they're coming up and they're lining up to actually make that push to the car in front. They line up themselves with the center of the bumper ahead of them.
Thing is,
which is all well and good, but you're on the left-hand side of the car. So when you're doing that, you're offsetting that kind of central curve point of the bumper right to their right-hand corner, and you can tip them so easy. You've got to literally hit the left corner visually to stay straight.
And on top of that, it becomes harder to keep it straight, which is what I'm partly asking, of course, is when you have it done in the corner, depending on how quick you have it done. As the pit stops are open, mind you, as you see, with everyone ducking down, of course, to get fuel.
Yeah, they certainly are, and we'll see if they can put this one through, but at the moment, everyone getting their service done, might as well take 4, might as well take full fuel. We've got the time here. There looks to be a lot of left tyres only from this field, so guys, topping that tank. They only use half of it, remember, so top the tank, which is going to give you about time for 2 tyres, so good stop.
And Andrew Farnyar's by far the fastest stop at 11.7. Connor Horn with a 15.4. But didn't lose time despite the very slow pit stop. Everyone else of basically staying around the same cycle. Jeremy Miller, though, might have gained some big-time spots on pit road with his 12.1 second stop. So a majority of that field taking those 4 tires. Now, for those wondering, why not just take 2 tires? There's every single stop or no tires. Of course, with the pit crew changes from last season, it became to where, especially for if you have to take 2 cans of fuel, it's better off just taking 4 tires because the time difference is about the same.
It certainly is, and you might as well at that point. There's not a huge advantage, but you're going to want to at some point in a race take 4, so you might as well.
Absolutely. Jordan Gerlach's been just given an end of longest line penalty for causing that first caution of the race today, as Jared Astrup completely demolished on the left side of his number 11 Toyota in the pits. Gerlach avoided significant damage outside of the right rear quarter panel, right rear bumper rather, in that incident, but everyone else made it through clean here at Daytona International Speedway, approaching lap 30 this next time by as the drivers start to set up towards double file. Right now setting up for the 1 lap to go rather for the restart here, Rachel.
Yeah, they are, and we'll get this thing ready to kick off yet again. but it's going to take some time to get them up to speed again, so we could see that caution speed caution situation. Now the whole pack is doubled up again. We string single file out there. It was really strung out for a while, so it changes the dynamic, but it's time to do it again.
Indeed it is right now. Time to do it again. Time to see what you can do once more. Right now in the top 5, Andrew Farniers lines up along with Connor Horn for the front row, while Brian Macklin starts alongside Thomas J. George for this restart. Jason Jacoby's 5th. Jeremy E. Miller gains a few spots in the pits to 6th, while Jeremy Bazemore in 7th. Nicholas Caldwell, Greg Omo, and Jeremy Redenberg round out your top 10 here on the racetrack for this restart. What's something that might have caught your eye a part of that first green flag run of this race today?
I think it's tough to say, but I think what's really caught my eye so far is the consistency of the front 4. They've been really, really good, and it's going to help them.
It's going to help them, especially if they keep the cars clean and keep the racing clean as they fall behind the pace car. Of course, you can't change lanes before the start and finish line here in this series. Everyone aware of that for the drivers as they go side by side for the restart. Lots of drivers backing each other up, it appears, for this restart. Green flags up, Farniar's off and away, Connor Horn on the outside line, and we're off and away. Already diving to the inside goes the number 12 of Skylar Shackelford, getting right underneath Rhett McBride for this restart.
Yeah, certainly did, and it's got, look at the big run we've seen from the outside line there. Big push there. Connor Horn really off to a great start in that one. The outside line looking strong, but forecasting they're drifting back and they're just not as consistent. Everyone moving around in both lanes. No one can get a good side trap here. No one has the momentum by being hooked up. So unfortunately lost that early momentum they gained, and it could have resulted in falling back here or desperately trying to get too close.
Connor Horn still stuck on the outside line as Macklin shuffles up to 2nd. Jacoby up towards 3rd now, as him and George are the 2 drivers stuck on the outside. Horn and George rather, with everyone else essentially stuck. If they can't get down quickly, drivers stuck on down. We're 70 laps away from the finish as Brian Macklin wants to try and get himself a bonus point rather for the lead lap. He's going up to the front. They're trying to ditch Farniars. Farniars with no friends on the inside all the way back to the 1 of Bazemore. To the lead goes Brian Macklin.
Nice move by Macklin in the 30 as he gets it done. The 3 goes with him, Jacoby as well. Puts paid to the plans of the 24 car as they get this thing done up here. Good moves by the inside line there. Those 4 cars pushing hard. Now look at how hooked they are. That's what you want to see from cars here. They've just hooked together and they've gone forwards, pulling this entire inside line, pulling a good gap to the pack behind them. 24 and the 9 have no choice but to drop back.
And the 24 is really dropping back now. The 9's shuffled into line and has ditched him. So Connor Horn, mind you, a talented driver who competed many times in the road to pro side, is now stuck on that outside line and dropping like a rock. Finally gets into line outside the top 10. But look who's up inside that top 10 now. A driver that tried to start that outside line throughout that entire first run. Daniel E. Eberhardt is up to 8th spot in the race.
Yeah, certainly trying his best, and they're going to get done, but got a long way to go still here. Not at our real first 40 lap mark in this thing, so 32 in the books. Hey, you can be good early on, but you got to be good right to the end at Daytona to make it count, and they are trying, but single filing out fast, it has another green feel to it.
It absolutely has, other than that one caution coming towards the first quarter of this race in the back part of the field, but everyone else back to single file once more. Now the thing is, you have a guy that has gone many times to the outside in Jason Jacoby trying to get a side draft to the right rear. Do you see him trying to do it once more now, especially with him up to 2nd and wanting to maybe lead a lap here at the Daytona 250?
Well, everyone wants to lead a lap. It's a bonus point. It counts for the season, so they all want it. But they've got to get to the right position to actually take this.
And right now just can't get into that position. Greg Olmo still in the 5th spot, backing up to the back of Bazemore. But someone else approaching the top 5 for the first time is Jonathan Gindel, working with Daniel E. Eberhardt now to catch the back end of Greg Olmo, as Greg Olmo works as a cushion about 2/10 between each car.
Yeah, trying his best there just to go forwards with this, but it's tough to stay hooked for so long at this place. The cars do move around a lot. You've got to, if you actually get within that bubble of air to the bumper in front of you, you've really got to be careful. You will overheat here. It's about trying to manage that. If you just sit outside that bubble, you're not going to overheat all day long.
Thing is, though, would you, at this point, you don't want to lose the pack at the same time, which is why you might see sometimes a driver try and push aggressively to keep the pack together. And that might be in part of the case to try and keep up with Greg Omo, just in case they fall back and have to regroup that said time later on.
Absolutely, and it's a managing act. It's about making sure you're in the right spot, and again, we're still fairly early, so there's no real rush for these guys to do it. As long as they stay together as a pack, they're good.
And so far, everyone on the bottom, top 12 as a pack. Rhett McBride is the first driver losing the lead pack. Then you have two drivers that were side drafting John Fowler in that 22 machine that's pulling back that second group. So now the second group's falling back as Connor Horn is trying to find a way to get the outside line working along with Eberhard, it looks. As Horn stays outside. Eberhard might be thinking about it.
Certainly is, and they're going to have to push as hard as they can here. Eberhard, honestly, he's my try hard at the race award. He's been pushing so hard. Back up in 7th place now in a great spot on the inside line there. Comfortable spot. 24 drops down there. Connor Horn gives up on that high side finally and joins the conga as everyone goes around Daytona. Yep, I just did that.
Yeah.
I don't know why I just did that, but it's the conga line. It felt appropriate.
I'm pretty sure that's this line is going to start sparking some stuff. Let's keep away from that situation from Daytona Speedweeks as the drivers still try and be safe here. That's the thing, though, which is why a lot of drivers might elect to go single file, not just because you don't want to lose, not just because rather you want to be cautious. Some drivers might not want to lose track position in case the line doesn't work out. Others might just want to be safe with their car until the later stages when they know it's money time.
Yeah, certainly is. And you've got to keep that car clean. A slight amount of damage on the car at Daytona will really cost you.
Especially at the front bumper. You can get away with it a little bit at the back depending on how much it is. But if it's on that front bumper, you're going to fall back and lose friends quickly.
Absolutely, and it's all about trying to stay safe there and keep your car in one piece, keep the cars around you in one piece. Just slight bumps and tabs will really hurt.
Absolutely, and the drivers trying to absolutely keep it single file for the time being. One driver so far out of the race, Jared Astrup in the pits, 10 laps down, still getting repairs in this race. Everyone else is on the lead lap as we approach lap number 39. Have had a couple different leaders. Connor Horn led a few laps. Andrew Farnyard's a few laps. Brian Macklin has also led some laps in this one as well. As the rest of the field still looking to try and get those said bonus points as we approach lap 40 next time by. But of course, that caution from before has kind of shuffled when everyone else's strategies are going to be as Daniel Eberhard goes to the outside and tries to work with Greg Omo.
Yeah, doing his best to get that one going there as they're trying to get something together. Maybe they'll get something to join in here for a trip to the front. 1991, good combination of sequential numbers there. 88 is going to come up and join them. Well, close enough. He's only 2 off their numbers, but hey, we've got a good sequence going here as they're going to go to the front with a good hookup now. They're staying fairly straight, which is great. 90 pushing the 91 hard. Exactly the right place to actually bump him there. And that's bringing him forward to the 88. And look at that push. If the 88 stays with them, he could bring all 3 forwards, but they've got to commit to this and stay as a trio. They've got a gap to the guys behind him. They're not hooked up on the bottom. Stay with this. You could pull a few. Now he just goes down.
And Farnyard's back. It looks like Farnyard's just decided, you know what, I see an opportunity to retake this race lead. I'm going to take it, and did exactly that. Almost still, though, on that outside line in the number 91 machine, with Daniel Eberhard still trying to push in that number 90 SK machine, and still trying to get that to work. It looks like, though, they might have the numbers, though, if they can connect to where Horn, along with Jeremy E. Miller, are to make it a 5-car train on the outside line.
Exactly, the 5-car hookup on the outside would really help them. They've got the same number of cars as the low side, but if they hook up well, they've got a real momentum gain to get here. And if those the 1, the 24, the 23 can get together, that process of getting together will give them that momentum to shoot forwards, and we could finally see the 90 get to the front here, which I'd really love to see, as now they've got a majority. They see blood in the water. Time to use this momentum here, get more cars off the bottom there, and that's going to pick them off and get the whole line through.
Only 4 cars still on the bottom side. Farnyards along with Macklin lined up as well with Cadell as well as George. As to the lead goes Greg Olmo for the first time today. He gets his bonus point for the start of the season, as Eberhardt still sticks onto the outside line. Still 5 cars on the inside, 5 on the outside for this fight for the race lead.
They've got the momentum there, and a good little bit of a tap by the 3 just before it was a bit, well, just before it became dangerous to push on the exit of the corner. Pushing in the middle is not too bad. 3 stays hooked up. The outside line is still pushing hard, but the inside is consistent here, which is what they need to happen. Heading towards that 43 this time by, and outside line really mounting a challenge here. Great race at the front, but look at this, the gap they pulled to the group behind them. 2s, 3s, 4s, no real major hookup. This is a big push by the lead guys, and they're really working hard. The 3 all over the 90.
And that's after the big push from Farnyards to try and push Olmo up front, as here comes Eberhardt. On a bit of a run, but on that outside line, gonna lose said momentum, as they'll even out in speed at 201 miles per hour and have to try it once more. Of course, you want to try and clear the drive on the inside if you want to get the pass done before the corner, to make sure you're able to get the truck down cleanly without trying to force it down and risking an incident.
Yeah, certainly. They don't want to get into a situation where they really are pushing this thing too hard. And I think they're in a good spot right now, so it's all about making sure you just keep the car in one piece. Yeah, try it, test it, see what you can do with it, but above all else, keep that car clean.
Eberhardt that time by, being pushed forward, did not get the lead lap. However, he will go up towards the front. Does he drop down, or does he keep up with Jacoby? He tries it, does do it. Daniel E. Eberhardt to the race lead. Now Jason Jacoby wants to try and take it. Still 5 by 5, 2 by 2.
I think this time by Eberhardt might get that race lead lap point here, which will be huge for him. He's worked hard to get up there. 10th on the grid to 1st in the race right now, and he's going to manage these lines. Pulls forwards that low side.
Whoa!
Oh, and he gets split in the middle. This could be trouble. He still gets the point. He was the leader, but we're 3 wide here. Could be spelling trouble in a moment, as the 3 trapped to the high side, ejected from the 90. Thought he was going to take the line with him, and unfortunately the rest of the line decided to stay in the middle. The 3 gets thrown to the back.
Eberhardt led the lap, but Jacoby with the checkup forced 3 wide and loses that outside line position. Has to fall back for the time being, but still within that lead draft, and actually helps the second group keep up, as now Olmo side by side with Eberhardt, trying to shuffle around on a couple of drivers. Bazemore getting side drafted by Cadell on the outside row in the 3rd spot, as Eberhardt gets the push from behind from Macklin. Eberhardt this time by leads the 2nd lap of his day so far, and up to the front once more he goes. Does he try and drop down this time? No, he does not. He's still trying to use that outside line. In fact, he's trying to split 2 different lines. Does get to the bottom.
He certainly does, and he did a good job of it, but he needs to keep going here to get this thing to be relevant. But Eberhardt secures that spot at the front. I think the outside line's lost its momentum here, actually, Justin. They've just not hooked up quite as well now, and I think they'll pull equal, but I don't think they can really get that run again to go up higher as another one drops down. They've kind of given up here. The momentum has just been killed off. Now we go. We could see Eberhardt up here for quite some time.
Eberhardt up to the front, single file for now. Macklin and Sizemore trapped on the outside line. Meanwhile, last time by, the number 21 nearly brought out the caution, and Brandon Johnson, he's in pit lane after severe damage to the right side. That's still under green after nearly coming up in the back portion of the field. Once again, still green with 55 laps to go, coming to 54 this time by, as Farnyards forces his way underneath Olmo, trying to get the pass, seeing the hole, makes the hole work. Farnyards up to 2nd for now.
Did a good one with that, but Farnyards is in secure place here. The 91, his last loss of momentum, he's a downward elevator, and he's going to push back to 30-1 by that process. Eberhardt controlling well at the front, a little bit risky in terms of when he goes up or down a lane, but it's holding okay.
And keep in mind, when it comes to those tight situations, you're not allowed to pass with your left side tires underneath the yellow line. If you get forced underneath there, you won't get a penalty. However, if you go underneath that line with the left side tires without being forced down, you will be penalized. And it seemed there, Farnyards just planted his way right just above that yellow line to keep those tires in that space while fitting in that hole.
Yeah, certainly did, and it's going to be very, very, very risky to try that sort of move again, but things tend to settle down now as momentum has been, of course, the driving force behind all this becomes a little bit slower.
Coming to halfway in just a few laps from now, a lap 49 of 100, as the outside line still falls apart now. Right now, some of the drivers that are amongst that group have had some experience, as talked about, and/or are new to the series. One of driver to know, another part of the YouTube/Twitch streaming community, is the driver in third now with his highest spot in the race so far, Jonathan Gandel, who started 9th in today's race, driving that natural light beer machine and driving on the inside line. Of course, got permission, in fact, from the sponsor to make sure he was prepared for these kind of races in the big stage.
Yeah, certainly has, and certainly is doing here as they push forwards, but got to be very careful to keep that car looking good. Again, we talk about slight little dings and damage. Even a slight bump can cause you some major problems. Even just a slightly hard tap, a checkup that goes wrong could cause you aero problems, and you got that, you're never going to lead. You can stay with the draft in most cases, but you'll never get to the front or hold it.
Coming to halfway this time by, who's going to lead to the halfway mark? Farnyards works his way towards that back bumper. Daniel Eberhardt appears to have the halfway lead mark secured. Daniel Eberhardt leads at lap 51 of 100, coming to that mark here for the first race of the 2019 season for the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for mental health here today. The lead pack right now, 20 cars are a part of it. However, if you go to 21st on back, this is where Eric Stanford is right now. That's where some small packs have started to form, where they have lost that lead group here, Rachel.
Yeah, they really have, and that's definitely going to help if there's a wreck further up the field, but the guys who dropped off the back, nothing much they can do in this thing. We've got Brandon Johnson on pit road, 5 laps down. Josh Gerlach is the one that's going a lap down here. And look at the speed difference. That's what being on your own does to you. So we've got a bunch of cars towards the rear, like you said, dropped off. It's like 2 and it's a 3. It's hard for them, but a caution would bring them right back into this race. Again, that caution, they might be saved from it, but you never know at Daytona.
You never know. Just one caution so far today, as we have just passed that halfway point here on LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network. And as we have crossed that halfway point for tonight's race, let's take a look at our iRacing Midway Race Break. Brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally organized racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, and more. So far, as we take a look at your half-time report, Daniel E. Eberhardt's up in the front for the time being, with Andrew Farnyard staying single file in second. Jonathan Gandel rounds out the top 3 with Thomas J. George and Connor Horn in the top 5. Jeremy Miller, Greg Omo, Brian Macklin, Skylar Shackelford, and Jeremy Bazemore round out the top 10 so far here tonight. Here, Rachel.
P11 tonight, Jason Jacoby with Rhett McBride, Anthony Fredericks in 13th, Bryce Winston Jr. in 14th, Kyle Kamer, Andrew Jones, Nicholas Caldwell 17th with Sean Callist in 18th, John Fowler, Ryan Lambert in 20th.
And you have to go back to 21st, where 4.5 seconds back of the leader is Eric Stanford in the 21st spot, working with Tom Moreno, Caleb Weekly, along with Brian Chambliss, in the 24th spot. The next group's led by Chad Schilling, along with Jeremy Rittenberg, Jay Horton, with Brad Bohr, Joker Johnson, Scott Brotherton, along with Kurt Rittenberg are part of that group. Then you have the rest of the field. That is a lap down so far. Just 3 drivers a lap down. Josh Gerlach involved in that first caution. 1 lap down to the racetrack. Brandon Johnson after wrecking, coming into turn 3. 8 laps down in the pits, has just pulled it into the garage. Jared Astrop has also pulled it into the garage with a DNF for the first race of the 2019 season here on LSR TV, the iRacing Esports Network. That's been your look at the iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com to sign up today. And you may be wondering, how are we keeping track of those set times? Well, there's a certain app that helps you with that, I believe, Rachel.
Absolutely. Whether your place in iRacing is on pit road, on the spotter stand, or behind the wheel, or you're just interested, the place to go is Joel Real Timing. Joel-real-timing.com and get yourself a free download today, or the premium version with many more features, and you can track every minute detail from pit stop times, from gaps, from where you'll come out after pitting. Joel Real Timing is a one-stop shop for sim racing analytics. As look at the front, they could do with it. They've got some good hard racing going on here as the outside line trying to push forwards. 91, 30 and a 3, they're going for this thing.
They're trying to go side by side. 3 of the drivers make it 4 on the outside line. And in terms of this pack, the way it's been shuffling around, we started off with the fastest times in the 44 flats. It's dropped to the 44 threes last time, according to JRT. To the outside, though, goes Olmo with a huge shot. Doesn't have the run, though, to try and make the pass to the front, of course. However, Macklin and Jacoby are trying to help them on that outside line. Very fast time, though, starting to build up at the back of this group as they've been able to catch up, rather, because of so much shuffling going on.
Yeah, certainly is, and need to push a little bit here. The shuffling's really split this thing apart, made it a very different race, and I think, again, we've got that green field, and we're looking to be pitting very short order, actually. It was 26 last time by, with fuel terms after the fallout caution. Let's call it 29. We should be looking at about lap 70, so we've got about 5 to 10 and the window's open. Well, the window opens in few laps, so when you go is open from there.
And again, that gets to the discussion where when do you go? A lot of times, seen in the past, if you go earlier, you may have less fuel, but you seem to be farther ahead. However, there's the risk that you're in a smaller group if you try and undercut the rest of your competition. How do you go about it with that strategy, especially if you're, say, not hooked up with a teammate?
You got to find friends, and there will be friends available to help you, but you've got to find friends. It's the only possible way that it can work.
What if you're hooked up with enemies?
Then you go with them. That's how it goes.
Okay.
There's no such thing as enemy when you're ready to pit.
And you have to have friends or frenemies, too, to try and get in a position to try and win the race as well when you think about it. I'm not Darryl Waltrip, thank you, though, but apologies to the Waltrip farm. I'm not trying to, but apologies to the Waltrip family if you're watching along with tonight's broadcast. Of course, with today's race, they still cycle around, coming up towards lap 60. Of course, a lot of people put hard work to try and make sure this series and this season is off to as big of a success as it can be. Of course, one of the larger fields I think we've seen in a while in this series. Of course, a new sponsor in Sim Racers for Health, mental health coming along. And of course, Evan Bazzoco, who unfortunately couldn't make tonight's race due to a delay due to transportation back to Las Vegas, along with Brian Macklin, have been working around the clock to try and make sure this season goes off without a hitch.
Yeah, it certainly is, and it's fun to think about that, isn't it, in terms of strange facts.
The thing is, though, the reason I bring that up, they've been trying to rework things, reworked a bit of the schedule a little bit at some point to try and range things up with a 36-race schedule to make sure it fits everyone else's runs. Having, of course, this bigger field with some of the stronger drivers we've seen today, it kind of takes a lot of work to try and get that all together, especially for a season like this, to try and make sure it goes off right from the get-go.
Yeah, it really does, and it's about the first race, and getting this one right matters so much. It's huge, but, you know, they've got to basically put themselves in a spot where they are now in control of what they do, and they're doing that. So the way this race plays off, it'll feel good for people, but the real season starts in round number 2.
Yeah, and that second round, of course, is at Atlanta. We'll discuss that schedule at the end of today's race, of course, as they still cycle their way around now into lap 61. So if drivers elected to come down, they can make it on fuel if they were to decide to go down. We'll see if anyone ducks down this time. No. It looks like the strategy still appears to be run it till empty and hope that you don't run out before you reach the pit lane.
It's a good hope, and I think we'll see plenty of groups going down. It'll be a case of tag along with whoever goes near you.
Here's that risk, though, and why I thought it might not be safe to be on pit road. Pit entry. There's a reason that exit at turn 4 for the pit entry is called Calamity Corner here at Daytona, Rachel.
Oh, it certainly is, and there's so many times. This is one of the things people forget to practice. Because pitting inefficiently at any track is an important factor if you've got a lap car stays high. Get the 2 wides pass. But no, any sort of pitting. Here we go. First group goes. 3 cars.
There it is.
Not many, but they go.
As expected, some drivers attempting the undercut. It's Horn, Miller, and Shackelford all coming into the pits. Horn staying on the outside. Remember, you have to stay out on towards the outside until the final 3 stalls before you can come into your pit stall. Everyone looking to try and hit their marks. Horn, of course, with pit stall number 1. And we'll see if they elect to take the 4 tires and fuel. They are in that situation that they can maybe save a couple seconds if they just take 2. But those drivers all ducking down. First off, Shackelford. Second, Miller. Horn also off and away out of the pit stalls. Each of them ticking in times about 15 seconds. With Horn still up front. Shackelford, though, jumping Miller in the pits.
Yeah, it certainly is. And they've got to be careful how they do that. But it's 3 cars on pit road is not enough, really. It's not going to give them the speed they need to catch up. They'll stay together, they'll stay relevant, but they're not going to gain time. If you want to really pit and be relevant to the result of this race, I mean, look at this. They're going to get swallowed now by this pack. It's not going to be enough for them, but they needed 4 to 6 cars to really have a good chance of coming back at this thing. And, I mean, look at this. This will be swallowed up. Leaders will go around them. Down a lap they go. We get a caution now. This is the worst situation for those cars that decide to undercut now. They're in a trouble spot.
And it looks like everyone knows that they're sticking to the bottom side of the racetrack, and everyone getting up fairly safely. No one's double file in that said group. Sometimes you might see, though, lap traffic go to the high side if they're off the pace. Sometimes, though, they do exactly that, like we might see in real life, stick to the bottom side. While drivers might prefer the high side, it's kind of driver and field preference, really, to where you want those drivers to be, especially the size of the group, I think, in terms of lap traffic today, as we've seen.
Yeah, it certainly is, and the size of lap traffic has definitely been an important factor in it, but, you know, it's about making your car do what you need it to do at the right time, and
here we go.
Look at the draw to extent. Here we go.
More drivers ducking in, a majority of the leaders. Jacoby sliding Horn into the pits, barely getting to speed limit. Everyone holding on to the cars. So a couple drivers nearly lost it, but everyone keeps it safe as majority of the leaders are in the pits.
That was close. I want to take a quick look at Jacoby as he came onto pit road. I'm going to have a look what his speed was there. As he crossed the line, timing line, he's at 62. He got it under enough that I think it's with the timing brackets. It's not if you pass the line at over speed, you can. In fact, you can speed on pit road. You've just got to make sure you time it properly. And it's about the average time taken between each of those white lines you see on pit road. Those are the sectors. If you are doing an average of over 60 on that bracket, you will be counted as speeding. However, if you're in the bracket where your pit box is, you can speed in and out of it, no problemo.
And Farnyards was the fastest out of the pit lane, and he takes the lead with Jason Jacoby with the dive bomb of the heck to come in away second. However, look how much distance there was between the top 2 out of the pits and 3rd through 7th. A 5-car train could potentially, if they elect to, drive right around 2 of the fastest cars today.
Yeah, certainly, and it's a great spot to put themselves in there. They've gained a good advantage from that, and it'll be helpful.
And let's see, Jonathan Goodell leads them. It's his choice if they pick them up or drive around them like sitting ducks. 191 the speed for the top two. Everyone else up to 200 to 198 in the corner as Cadell works to the outside, but George Eberhardt trying to work, nearly makes it 3 wide as they now have to deal with cars coming to the pits, almost stays out of trouble. Still 3 wide though between McBride, Macklin, and Jacoby.
Yeah, certainly is. It's going to be a very brave moment to sort this one out. They've got it sorted to 2 wide now. As 88 there of Fernaz just getting into the right spot for this. 9 ahead of them though. That is George. I believe they've not pitted yet, those two, so those are not relevant to this conversation, but the 90 of Evanhard drops in. They're filtering down, but they need the speed. These two that haven't pitted yet will help them pick up the pace and stay on the lead lap. The leaders are coming up behind them. They do have to come in though.
And here comes the last car to come in, Kyle Kammer, coming out right in front of the rest of the leaders. He'll try and cycle in as high as he can up the field after being out of the group.
But
We got trouble.
It's off the track though. It's off the track. No caution.
And Daniel E. Eberhard spun in the grass, going 3 wide with a car coming straight out of the pits. Again, that was Kyle Kammer, the last of the drivers to pit, as Jacoby sideswiped him and spun around Eberhard as he stopped on the racetrack. And it looks like he's trying to bring up the caution on the bottom of the banking. What's he doing here? Yes, he brings it out. Tom Moreno nearly hits him.
That's not a good move, I gotta say. I don't like that. That is not how you should be doing this. He's come back onto the track. I mean, I'm looking at this. Oh, no, he's tried to stop the car, seeing cars coming, and he swung it around. That wasn't intentional. I thought he might have pulled on to get a caution, but he was returning to the track and then saw cars coming, locked him up, and ended up spinning there. So, not intentional, but very nearly caused a problem. But, hey, there we go. Rack him and stack him again. Let's go.
Problem is there, too. He was trying to cut through the grass to get back onto the racetrack before he hooked it.
Should have used the bus stop.
I think he overshot the bus stop. That's the problem. He missed the bus.
Oh, I've seen people do that in the actual Daytona 24, and it's hilarious.
Either way, as the drivers have the caution on the racetrack, Jonathan Gandell is now in the race lead here on lap number 70. Thomas George to second. Farnyards dropped to third, with Macklin, Jacoby, and McBride inside the top 6. This helps everyone else, though, because that top 7 was a far distance away from everyone else that was in various different groups after the pit stops.
It does. It bunches everybody back up again. And like I said, if we'd have had that green flag cycle, it had stayed green, we'd have probably seen it go green to the end there because everyone was split up into tiny packs. It wouldn't have mattered anymore.
Here's the problem, though, if you're Kyle Kammer. Remember, he was the one who came out of the pits and got sideswiped. He's now got that front damage we talked about on the right front fender. How much is that going to affect him in speed, especially his ability to suck up to the cars in front?
Even if he gets it all repaired, unfortunately, due to the nature of how this thing works, he's never going to be able to really lead. That's a big problem.
It can definitely be. He's in 13th on the track, and that's one of the highest spots he's been all day after starting 19th in today's race. Let's see if anyone elects to come down. It looks like a majority of the drivers faking. Yes, indeed. They're all going to fake in. Of course, at this point, you can make it on fuel as long as you don't have damage. You don't have to technically come in. Only drivers coming in, Daniel Eberhard and Joker Johnson.
Yeah, they're in a good spot there for that, but we're going to see those come that need to come, but it's just reset everything.
There is a third driver, Nicholas Caldwell, who's also come in, it looks like, from 18th. But, yeah, everyone else, as long as you keep the car clean, you can keep the track position.
I've got to say, the 90's lucky. He took damage to the rear quarter, which really won't affect the race as long as he gets it sorted.
Absolutely at this point. Lucky dog, Kurt Rittenberg, he fell a lap down during that pit cycle, was on that high side, in fact. He has severe right rear damage, though, it appears here. So that might have been maybe involved with that contact we see with maybe Johnson. I'm not quite sure. And/or one of the checkups that happened in the field today. He's got severe damage. Eberhard is out of the pits. But let's talk about Cadell all of a sudden. He's now in the position for the first time today that he's leading laps at the front of the field with Thomas George as well. And his best position in the entire line, it appears, if he can get to the bottom quickly.
Yeah, certainly, and it's about making sure you're careful with this, and I think that they have to really push to get to there because it'll be a safer line for them, but it's going to be about how this one plays out. I don't think we can predict it at this one. Daytona's never been predictable.
It absolutely isn't predictable, that's for sure. Daniel E. Eberhardt's been given an end of longest line penalty for the caution because, of course, he was the one who ended up in turn bring that out after he spun out of the grass on the apron, then try to get back going, and when he got back going, brought that caution out, of course. Of course, your first cause of caution in the series, end of longest line. Second cause, you go a lap down. Third, it's the end of your race here in this series.
Certainly a good way of setting it up. Keeps things to a nice, simple approach.
And at this point, believe it or not, it's just our second caution of the day here too, Rachel. How do you feel about just having the 2 cautions? That's it all day today. It's been very clean.
It's been really good. It's been an impressive race here, honestly. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Now, are you surprised that it stayed clean, though, or is this to be expected?
Not with how good these guys are. These guys are really good, so I'm pretty impressed.
I'm really impressed, too, at this point. When they even have been side by side, it's not been to where they force it towards a thread and a needle and or cause absolute calamity while trying to do so. Now we're at the point, though, we're under 30 laps to go. To you, once we get back going, there's the strong chance with the way this is swung, this might go green to the finish, but that's a big if. If it does, when is the time to go if we get to that point where you have to stay green the rest of the way?
I think it's about making sure you just get the right timing. You've got to be brave now. With this amount of laps left, we've got 28 left. Now's the time to make that second line work. Stick to it, have faith, you're going to need it.
I think it was Joey Logano who said after the duels that he thought he had to be around 3rd or 4th to try and make a move for the lead to try and win the duel in that last lap when he won his duel, the second duel at the Gander Outdoor RV. He duels on last Thursday. However, if he got as big of a run as he could, still side drafted as well to get up to the front. Are you seeing that kind of a situation? Do you see anyone who could potentially just side draft their way up like that?
To be fair, it's necessary and it works in the iRacing system, so you got to do it.
Thing is, though, who do you see being that driver that could be that potential
the 90
guy?
Is one of those guys. He's got rear damage, which really isn't going to affect him, so I think it's his chance to make something with this work, but he has to work hard to get up there, and he's got time, I think. Yeah. We're going to see maybe another caution with this running down with the amount of stress and pressure of this coming to the end, so there's time.
As you can tell, we are 1 to go until the green. Restart will happen on lap 74. Let's run down quickly the top 10. Jonathan Candell's on the inside. Thomas J. George on the inside of row 1. The Farmyards will start alongside Brian Macklin in row 2. Jason Jacoby and Brett McBride in row 3 for the restart. Connor Horn, along with Skylar Shackelford, will start with Jeremy B.A. Miller and Bryce Blitzen Jr., rounding out your top 10 for the drivers on the track. Again, it's going to be time to buckle up those seatbelts one more time. Who do you see? What do you expect for this restart, rather, here, Rachel?
It's going to be tricky, but I honestly think the real chance who got from this one, the likely guys to really pull through this, Fernaz, Macklin, Jacoby, I think those are really our ones. Maybe Horn.
We'll see who's the one who drives up towards the front to try and battle for the win. Coming to the restart, 77 laps to go for the Daytona 250 for the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. Green flags out. Jonathan Candell in the natural light Toyota off and away on the inside line. Thomas J. George in the Milwaukee machine still on the outside. Ducks inside. Top 4 already single file. McBride, though, stuck on the outside.
Yeah, it certainly is, and it's a place he has to be stuck, I think, because it's where you need to go to make this thing relevant. The 3 comes up looking for a chance, but Dan didn't have the quite overlap he wanted, but now he commits. Get up there, go for the push, get this thing working, get cars to come with you, and you've got a chance.
And Jason Jacoby's the one getting pushed. He does have front bumper damage, though, from that side swipe, it appears, as Daniel E. Eberhardt, Farnyars, joins the outside line as well. Thomas J. George tries to block, can't get there quite yet, as Andrew Farnyars, with a huge run, goes up to see if he can get the lead back. Not this time. Jonathan Candell gets the lead lap as the run dies at the start and finish line.
Yeah, it certainly is, and you got to be super careful to make sure it stays. These guys are pushed hard, and it's about getting to that low line, trusting they'll stay where they are, using that side draft. It'll get this to go faster, but they've got to use it, and it's got to be a case of faith.
No one really side drafting for the first three cars on the outside line. Look at Bryce Whitson Jr., though. He is side drafting the heck out of Connor Woods outside, and now side drafting the 23. But the thing is, when you have the side draft from the inside, that can pull you back as well. Hence is why we see drivers maybe bobble out and get towards the left rear of these cars.
Yeah, it certainly is. And they're moving around a bit too much at the front there, but the 88 leading him forwards. Farnyars has been a fast car, so this could be a chance for him.
Farnyars losing some speed once more in the corner. 199 on the outside line and the inside line, but that shorter radius again coming into play on that inside line to try and push forward. Now the thing is, though, I don't think they got the numbers here on the outside line, coming to 24 laps to go this time by.
Yeah, certainly trying their best there as it's just lagging back again, but it could be time for the run to 30 of Macklin. Looking like he wanted to play, but not going with it yet. You got to read the elevator. That's what they... Oh,
here it goes!
Ruined that run. No, he ruined the run there by going up and drops back down again. Went a bit too late. You've got to read the outside line like an elevator. You've got to step on at the right moment to take it to the top, otherwise you lose the leg.
And he nearly lost two different legs at once. Nearly cut off Farnyars, nearly destroyed Shackelford's front bumper. Shackelford avoids damage, and Farnyars to the bottom side gives him a huge love tap. At that point, you have to wonder if that was just close coming down, or sorry, thank you very much for the scare, buddy, kind of a tap.
Pretty much, yeah. You have to be very careful to make sure that one works right. So they got it good, and it's behind.
Everyone now behaving once more for now. We'll see how long they keep up the play as we have 23 laps to go. And usually around 20 laps to go is where that intensity level turns itself from about 5, 6, or 7 up slowly towards up to number 11 on that knob.
Yeah, it's about making sure you got this right, and it's the 11 has already happened. I think we're past.
And we've had some trouble with the back of the field. Pardon me, Nicholas Caldwell. He was working with Eberhardt rather. Appears to have had trouble off of turn 1 with Joker Johnson heading into turn 1 rather. So that means he's lost the pack and has destroyed his car. Again, Johnson and Caldwell, the ones making contact. Eberhardt avoiding said contact. We still stay green.
Yeah, it certainly is, as they're going to do what they can to make it work here, but it's just about getting this thing hooked. It's about having that faith. I keep talking about it, but it matters, as the Church of Daytona is a very fickle deity.
Indeed, and here comes that fickle deity of wanting to lead a lap once more. As Cadell still holds on to the bottom, George still in second, but look where Macklin's gone. Also, take a look at where Skylar Shackelford is. This is the highest he's been in the race today. Started all the way back in 20th position. Now in a position where he can have a potential top 5 or be in the running for this win.
Yeah, it certainly is, as they can try, but they've got to get this thing built up. They've got to have more people join this side to make it work, because everyone's getting a little bit twitchy right now. The car's moving around an awful lot, and it's making me a little nervous watching this. I can redirect coming now.
Yeah, this might be where a couple drivers are reading too. There's a lot of cars now back to the inside. They're going 202, make it 201 miles per hour on the exit of the corners now, and recording some of the fastest lap times of the day. This time by at the stripe, lead car for the pack of 43.8. Majority of the drivers, in fact, in the 43-second range for the first time today, Rachel.
Yeah, it certainly is, and you've got to make sure you do it properly. We've fallen back to single file line. This is not how it should have gone. We should have had guys really stack that outside line and make it move, but no one's quite brave enough yet.
Still early on with 20 laps to go. It looked like a big run there for Anthony Fredericks at the back of the line. Checked up Kyle Kammer. Otherwise, no one else taking some risk. Two of the drivers that were taking risks, remember, were Macklin and Jacoby. They've dropped to 13th, all the way to the back of the group to 12th and 14th respectively. All because they got ditched on that outside line once more.
Certainly is, as these guys are pushing as hard as possible. I feel a little bit less nervous now to single file down. It was getting a bit nerve-wracking, and it's now in a position where I think they can handle this thing, but it's not going to be long before that line picks up again and we get that finger-biting starts.
And Jacoby's trying to start a line at the back of the field, it looks like. He's working with two drivers he hasn't seen much today. A member of the Final Four for the playoffs last year in Andrew T. Jones, Sean Callist also jumps up to the outside line. So those three are trying to get something done because you can't just wait to the last lap if you're that far back for obvious reasons.
Certainly is as well. This is good.
Oh, trouble! Daniel Eberhardt's wrecked in turn number 1. Couple cars involved. In fact, we stay green after making contact with Caleb Weekly going 3 wide into the corner.
Oh, we did, yes, and he bounced off the inside there. But everything stays good. Everyone stays roughly forwards, which means no caution flies. Eberhardt's chances and hopes are away as now we get the line picking up again. The 88 going for it.
Daniel Eberhardt, a part of the Final Four drivers running for the championship last year, finished 3rd in the championship. DNFs to start the 2019 season as part of a 2-car incident. Weekly also involved in the incident as mentioned. Again, still green, coming towards 16 laps to go. Everyone else up at the front stays single file. And with that incident, really breaks up the pack. Really at the back, rather.
Does.
This time by once more, Cadell still leads the pack. With Thomas George second, Shackelford third, Horn in 4th, Miller up to the 5th spot as Farnyars has to shoot to the outside to avoid the checkup.
He does, and this could be the start of something. It could be a case of I'm up here, I might as well use it, and right now it's getting close, 15 to go.
However, we've seen at times, if you are on that bottom line and don't want to lose the run and have a checkup in front, you have to duck to the outside line to make sure you don't destroy the car in front, especially if you want to be that driver that follows the no-lift personality type.
Yeah, certainly is, and no-lift mentality is something you got to have here sometimes if you want to win, but I'm looking at the 69 up here. Look
at this, Farnyars.
Oh, this could be a good start. 3 to go, or 3 cars go out to go.
Farnyars, McBride, Fredericks, all to the outside. McBride trying to draft on the back bumper, thinking about the bottom. Fredericks goes back low, but it looks like Farnyars and McBride are going to try and do something here, knowing that with 15 laps to go, they want to get towards where they can compete. Rachel.
Absolutely, as now this chance could be starting up again. We've got guys thinking about it, but no one's brave enough to step onto the dance floor first here. It's like a high school dance. Nobody wants to leave the sidelines.
And no one wants to risk losing all their spots by making the move too early. 5 cars now line up at the back of the field. Brian Macklin leading the back group. Omo, Jacoby, Callis, and Jones all ducked up high. All of them starting to poke their noses back down low, though, to keep up with the back of the train, except for Jacoby.
Yeah, they're trying. They're really trying, but it's going to start out of 3. Is one of the ones staying out there. Jacoby tries it, but has to fall back in line. We're running out of time now to make this work.
More cars are thinking about it. 2 different drivers darted to the outside, Miller and Whitson Jr. this time. But both of them had to go back to the outside. It looks like, based on how they're driving as Whitson gives the bump, they're trying to maybe poke their noses out either for air and or, the more likely chance in some cases, to see who wants to go.
Yeah, certainly, and it's just, I don't think playing the way they wanted it at this point, and they're going to have to push a little harder, because if no one's willing to make the work go, unfortunately the work doesn't get done.
And it looks like one driver wanted to make something work. Jeremy Bazemore instead drops to the back at the end portion of the group. Farnyars wants to make the outside work himself again, as he's now stuck on the outside. Whitson Jr. hits the apron, nearly slams in, does make contact with Farnyars. Able to keep it straight though, both drivers are. Both of them avoiding significant damage, if at all.
Yeah, certainly, as now we've got an opportunity forming, and it's Farnyars again doing what he can to go with this, but the 8 has to stick with this. Kamer, the 30 car of Macklin, they have to push. Come on, stay out there. Do the right thing here. You've got 11 laps to go now. Stay out there. Time to commit.
Jacoby's losing the draft, though, at the back part of the field. 7 drivers trying to make the outside line work as they go through the trial vote. 11 laps to go this time by. Jonathan Candell still leads the Daytona 250 to start off the 2019 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series season, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health. Andrew Farnyar still leads that outside group. Kyle Kammer, Brian Macklin, Greg Omo. On that outside, Sean Callist and Andrew T. Jones, both trying to keep up to the back portion of the train. The 00, though, looks like he wants to go in the be the match machine. However, he's got front damage, Rachel.
Yeah, he does. It means he's not likely to be able to get out to the front and stay out front, but, well, he could randomly get there at the last chance.
And that could be a difference of a couple tenths when someone tries to push you on that outside line, especially. And they might drive around him if he tries to go for the win. He can still maybe push, though, with the damage.
Yeah, certainly is. Certainly is indeed. I don't know. He got an opportunity to do it, but it's looking pretty risky.
And to be the match, Toyota ducking itself around. Trying to make Chevrolet, I should say. Trying to think about it once more. Farnyars falls back now as the high line's down to 5. Under 10 laps to go here in Daytona. As once again, Whitson Jr. has to come out for air. Miller's pushed underneath the O-line. They're side by side. The trial as they make contact with the left front. Whitson hits the right rear of Miller, but they both keep it straight once more.
Yeah, just about keeping it straight, which is what they've got to do here. Otherwise, things go dramatically wrong. But we're starting to see some movement forming, some lines building. There's a good momentum at the back here. Farnyar, along with the 91 of Omo. 43 there, Callist. And I think that's the 64 of Jones. This could be a good train to start going if people hook up with it.
And Jones, who won 6 races last year as the back car, Farnyars, drops back down to work with Bazemore all of a sudden as they're starting to lose the pack, in fact. Coming now on 7 laps to go, rather. They're now to that point where they can lose the draft if they don't get the checkup that they do get right now as Fredericks checks up the bottom side at the back of the group.
Yeah, certainly seeing what you can do with this, but everyone's saying single file's not going to help this. I mean, we're running out of laps here, guys. Let's do this.
Who wants to try and win the race? Who's going to risk it and put everything out on the line? Huge checkup in line. 4 different cars check up. Big trouble. Farnyars hits the wall. He's flipped in the air. Caution flags out. Greg almost spun around. Kyle Kammer's destroyed. And the big one happens on lap 93. And we're going to finish this one with a couple lap shootout.
We are indeed, and looking at this in slow-mo to see what happened, and it's actually a concertina effect. The 4 gets into the back of the 5, a little too hard there, backs off the gas, it goes up a bit, the 30 comes up, taps the back of him actually pretty hard, slows him down. The Conquers games begin, taps into the 8, and that concertina gets much bigger until the 8 gets squeezed between the 30 and the 88 gets turned sideways, clips the 88, turns him up the track, and wow, boom.
Farnyar's got the wildest ride out of everybody. Flipped up in the air above that banking. and flipped up into the sky nearly. And Anthony Fredericks, mind you, was the 4 car that caused the big checkup that caused calamity in turn 3, it appears. Second checkup, it appeared, in the lap for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, it certainly is, and wow, could have been a lot worse, but could have been better.
Could have been indeed. Now, though, this is going to be under 5 laps to go when we get back under green now here. This completely changes everything because it's not to where it's like a 1 or 2 lap shootout where you might get up to speed. However, it's to that point where it can get absolutely insane for a race win.
Oh, it will. We're going to have like 2 or 3 laps here, and this is going to be mental. Get ready for a massive finale, guys.
This is going to be interesting now, but this is where, if you're Cadell or George, when we get back under green, how do you play this to try and either stay up at the front or try and keep the lead?
You've got to play the lanes. You've got to basically pull them and go. It could be done. It certainly could be done. Even on a short run, you can control those lanes. You've just got to get that launch. You've got to get the start you need, and you've got to push so hard to do it. Can Cadell hold it? I don't know. It's going to be a scramble. We might end in the yellow.
That's still a possibility, too. Race control informing drivers right now to think about precautions, think about actions, stay calm in this kind of situation. And of course, you got to think too, you want to think big picture for the said race. The lucky dog is Josh Gerlach on the track. He was at least 1 lap down, was in fact 1 lap down. This wreck moves him up to 28th after he has had a very difficult day in the number 17.
It really has been a difficult day, and well, he's going to have to try his best, but this can go forwards. It could be pretty interesting with this result. I'm not sure if that's the way it's going to stay, but we're going to have a wild time if we do.
Again, once we get back in a green, you have Skylar Shackelford in his highest position. Connor Horn, who led the first 15-plus laps of today's race, back there in the 4th spot. Then you have Jeremy E. Miller, 11th, started today, up to 5th. Then you have Bryce Whitson Jr. in 6th with that bit of damage on the front bumper that might affect him. And then you have Rhett McBride that just avoided contact with anybody to cause significant damage. Meanwhile, Fredericks cuts back into the line in front of him. He has back bumper damage, though.
He does, but I think he has got opportunity to still go forwards. Back bumper damage doesn't matter too much here.
The thing is, the drivers that got the worst damage, once again, to recap, if you're just tuning in here on LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network, Andrew Farnyards, Greg Omo, Kyle Camel, all in the pits with very significant damage to their cars. And right now, in that position where they either are done for the day and or trying to make it to the finish just to get points, as high as many points, as they can for this finish. We are still under the pace car once again here at Daytona International Speedway for 2019's first race of the season for the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health season here for the Daytona 250. A lot can happen. Before we finish up today's race, I'd like to quickly thank once more for Sim Racers for Mental Health, creating 2018, the presenting sponsor for 2019 season that was created to spread awareness of the mental health challenges that those in the sim racing community are dealing with and to provide support when necessary. A great organization we've seen grow amongst the iRacing community throughout the year.
Yeah, we certainly have, and it could definitely become a very exciting result here as we look forward to this. But this series has honestly had some of the best racing I've seen on the service from the oval side. I am really excited to see just how they push this.
And I was hearing some drivers discussing this, in fact, as well. The 22 actually mentioned that drivers recommended this series because of that competitiveness and everything else. And the number 22, he's farther on back in the field in 18th spot. However, 1 to go's been signaled on the pace car, and we'll have a 3-lap dash to decide the winner for the Daytona 250. Jonathan Cadell will start on the inside line with Thomas J. George on the outside. Row 2 with Skylar Shackelford. Connor Horn is in 4th, with Jeremy Miller and Bryce Whitson Jr. in the row number 3 spots. Rhett McBride will start alongside the 4 of Anthony Fredericks. Bryce Macklin, along with Sean Callis, round out the top 10. 3-lap dash here, Rachel. Who do you got winning this one?
Ooh, it's going to be tough. I am not sure who I've got winning this thing, but you know what? I am looking forward to seeing a phenomenal end to this race. Right now, money's on the 24. He started on the pole. He's in the second row on the outside lane, which is the best place for a launch to get the outside moving. He's a fast car, but you can't count out like some McBride or Miller. Maybe Macklin. Who knows? It's going to be risky for that, but money's on the 24.
Right now, we'll have to see if that money works and if that money ends up leading to the jackpot. It's checkers or records to decide who wins the first race of the season here at Daytona as they work their way slowly towards the exit at turn number 4. Once again, Jonathan Cadell, the control car in the Natural Light Toyota, starting alongside the Milwaukee Chevrolet. We'll see who gets the biggest run. Horn already with a big shot from the back bumper this time. Huge shots coming from the 00 before we even get to green. He's shoving Horn. Cadell's off and away. Green flag's out. We're underway for the 3-lap dash. Everyone keeps their lines, but Jonathan Cadell with a big jump. Horn ducks immediately to the bottom. Whitson Jr. nearly hooks him.
It's very close here, but the outside's falling apart. We've got 2 to go here.
Whitson Jr.'s in the wall, hit the back bumper of Horn. They stay green. However, that's going to kill the momentum on the outside line. Whitson Jr. gets contact with Bazemore as that's going to destroy the front bumper of Bazemore. However, it's still a front group that formed up with a total of 8 cars with a chance to win it.
This could go to Cadell. In fact, this will go to Cadell if nothing changes here, but a last-ditch move by the 9 of George could definitely take the lead. If he pops out at the right moment, he can pass Cadell for the win, but they're going to all have to jump on the final lap, and we might see these guys really take that last chance. It's going to come down to that final lap.
Bunny ears last time by are on the flag stand. You just seen them pass. As George stays on the bottom, everyone else in the top 5 stays on the bottom. They're side by side outside the top 10 and trying to get any kind of positions they can meanwhile. But who's going to try and make the move up to the front? Shackelford still in the 3rd spot, still waiting on the back bumper. Miller trying to give him a shot as Macklin tries to get up towards the back bumper of the 5 driver car up in front as they work their way through turn number 3. 1 to go this time by.
2 wide, bit further back is going to be a problem. They could possibly flip this thing, give us a yellow, and end this race. But the top group here pushing hard. We're going to see them make this move on the back stretch, I think, of this lap. Onto that final lap now.
White flag is out at the flag stand. Cadell leads them on the bottom side. Can George try and make the move? Who will duck their way down the back stretch? Bit of a run for Jeremy Miller as they come down the backstretch. Shackelford ducks to the outside. He works with Miller. Cadell ducks and duck down up yet. He still works with George on the out. 3 cars battling with 2 on the inside. Will they keep this up? Shackelford nearly hits the back door. Hit the back bumper of George on the right rear. Tries to get the slingshot. George moves up. Cadell tries to block the lanes. George ducks to the inside. They'll be side by side heading to the stripe.
What a finish!
Who gets it? Cadell. It's Jonathan Cadell. Jonathan Cadell wins the first race of the 2019 Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series.
What a finish! You won a first race of the season. You got a 3 wide finish at Daytona, baby.
And the driver that made it 3 wide, Skylar Shackelford, who got a second huge run to try and make things work. The difference between the 2 drivers, between Cadell and George, 8 1/1000ths of a second to win it at Daytona, Rachel.
Wow, that was good. That was one heck of a finish and one amazing race we've seen tonight.
A crazy finish to this one, side by side to the stripe. Miller tried to get going, McBride tried to get going, but in the end, Jonathan Cadell, the first driver to lead them to the restart, comes away with the victory, coming 3 wide to the stripe, as George will join him for the burnouts here at the World Center of Racing. As they continue to make contact, it seems, we'll take a step aside ourselves and try and sort things out here for today's finishing results. Right after this, you're watching the iRacing Esports Network and LSR TV for 2019 coverage of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health. Your winner, John Goodell, for the Daytona 250.
Is $10,500 richer. Two-time NASCAR. This is your 2013 NASCAR iRacing. It's going to be Humpy winning the race, and it's going to be Conti taking away his first NASCAR 2017 NASCAR Beginner Free Series Championship to Ryan Luza. Fella is a four-time champion of the NASCAR Beginner Free iRacing Series.
An exciting finish tonight for the Daytona 250 to come away with a victory that came down to 8 1/1000ths of a second. Welcome to post-race coverage of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health. Tonight was a race that stayed fairly clean from start to finish, and tonight it was Jonathan Goodell coming away as the victor here at the World Center of Racing over Thomas J. George in a 3-wide finish. The driver that made it 3 wide at the stripe, Skylar Shackelford, who finished 5 1/100ths of a second back from the checker flag. Jeremy E. Miller rounded out the top 4 along with Brett McBride in the top 5, with Brian Mecklin, Anthony Fredericks, Connor Horn, and Bryce Whitson Jr., along with Andrew T. Jones rounding out the top 10. In the 11th spot, it was Eric Stanford coming away in the spot after keeping up and trying to keep up a majority of the day. Jeremy Bazemore, after significant contact to the front bumper of his car, dropped to 13th. Brad Bohr didn't have a boring race for himself, still came away with plus 14 and 14th overall. Chambliss came away 15th, with Sean Callis dropping all the way back to the 16th spot. Jason Jacoby, after being up at the front all the way into the final 20-plus laps, couldn't keep up with the pace, got shuffled to the outside with the front bumper damage, and finished 17th. Jay Horton and Scott Brotherton finished behind him, with Jeremy Rittenberg rounding out the top 20. Newcomer John Fowler finished 21st, with Tom Moreno able to survive himself to a 22nd place finish. Brian Lambert finished 23rd, Kurt Rittenberg 24th, with John Gerlach finishing 25th. Caleb Weekley finished 26th after making contact prior to that last caution that did not bring out the yellow, with Joker Johnson and Kyle Kammer rounding out the drivers, finishing on the lead lap. Kammer 40 seconds off the top pace. Greg Omo finished in the garage area with Andrew Farnyards as well, 7 laps down to round out the top 30, with the DNFs today: Daniel E. Eberhardt, Nicholas Caldwell, Brandon Johnson, and Jared Astrop for tonight's race. One person who is probably celebrating with some beer and some natural light beer from that Toyota is the member of Steel Horse Racing who came away with the victory today. Let's bring in our victors for today's race. Jonathan Goodell, how are you feeling about winning in that very tight finish?
I never win at Daytona, and to win in the same weekend that Denny Hamlin wins, my favorite driver, how awesome is that, man? It's awesome.
Talk us through your perspective as you're coming to the white flag, seeing so many drivers still single file. What was going through your mind as you're looking in your back bumper to see who's going to try and make a move on me?
Well, I had my teammate Thomas right there behind me, and I knew he was going to try to keep it as clean as he could and try to help me out so we could get a 1-2 finish there. And coming out of 4, he's like, hey, man, it's down to you and me. I'm like, all right, let's do this. And we go down to the go down to the checker there, and I wasn't going to wreck him, but man, 8 thousandths of a second? That was just crazy. I didn't know what to do, man. I'm still shaking right now.
What was this? How did it come towards getting the right strategy to be in this position to come away at the front when we reached that last caution of the race?
Well, we had that green flag pit stop.
Yeah.
And I went down there, and we got left sides only, and I think I just nailed my pit stop just right. I think Andrew and Jacoby there, they got a little bit of a run on us there coming off pit road, and we went right by them, and then we managed to just stay in the lead the rest of the race. And it's just really hard to pass here with the way this draft package works. So it worked out in my favor. I usually hate it, but I don't hate it when I'm in the lead.
That's kind of sometimes how it works sometimes, you know, but either way, next race is a whole different beast of a racetrack. We head to Atlanta Motor Speedway, 110 laps. How do you feel about going off to that 1.5 mile circuit?
I feel like I'm not going to win another race this year. No, I'm not that good. But, you know, Daytona, you get to go out there and show, every once in a while you can win something that don't require much skill. I don't have much skill, but I won Daytona, so it don't matter.
Look on the bright side, Talladega is coming up on the April 29th, where you could also try and showcase your super speedway talents. But anyone you want to thank before we let you go for being a part of your victory today?
Obviously, Thomas George, number one. If it wasn't for him, wouldn't have won that race. Want to thank Natty Light for giving me permission to run their scheme on the car. It definitely helped me out there throughout the race, 5 of them. And I wanted to give a shout out to join.bethematch.org. My buddy Bryce Whitson was making his return to sim racing after battling leukemia. He may be needing another donor here soon. So if you can, just go visit join.bethematch.org. Check those guys out and help my buddy Bryce Whitson out there. And it was good to see him back on the track tonight.
It's good seeing him back on the track and good seeing you come away with the victory tonight. Congratulations on the victory here in the Daytona 250 here, Jonathan.
Thank you, sir.
That was Jonathan Cadell coming away with the race victory with Steel Horse Racing. His fellow teammates standing by with Rachel Whiteford, the man who finished off in second today, and Thomas J. George. Rachel?
Thank you very much. We've got Thomas George here, teammate to, of course, the winner tonight, Jonathan Cadell. Thomas, a fantastic race. You and Jonathan working well together there at the end. Was it a team thing? Were you both trying to push there to get that thing done?
Oh, absolutely. I've honestly never been happier to finish second, and I hate finishing second. So,
I've got to ask though, Thomas. I've got to ask: was there a attempt? Did you want to move out and take it, or was it a case of this is a team thing?
There was a split second I thought about it, but the hole closed too quickly, so I knew the only chance I had to even really beat John there was to wait to turn 4, see what happens if the lane opened up, and it just happened to do so. Just came up a little bit short, but I mean, I'm not a fan. I mean, I understand the history of Daytona. I'm just not a fan of plate racing, but I'm happy to get second and get John up to first there, get a Steel Horse 1-2, and I mean that was about as exciting of a race as we could have promised. I mean that's one way to come back to full throttle. I tell you that it's a good way to start the season, and definitely can't wait to keep going.
Well, phenomenal performance. You say you hate plate racing. What is your preferred racing? We're talking short. We're talking 1.5 miles. Where is your wheelhouse?
A lot of people say I'm really good at 1.5 mile tracks. So next week we're going to Atlanta. I love racing there. Charlotte in a couple months. But I mean, I love most of the tracks we go to for the most part. I mean, I love going home to Richmond and short tracks. So it don't matter where we go. We always tend to have a strong car, and the entire team, Steel Horse, always has strong cars there. I think it's going to be a good season. Can't wait to get going and see what we got for them.
Yeah, certainly is. And well, good luck with that. Anybody like to give a shout out to?
Just all my teammates. Like I said, I'm happy that they're here. I'm glad Red finished 5th. I think Anthony got 7th. Bryce Whitson finished 9th as a little partner to us, and I'm trying to get the approval from Milwaukee, so I'm still waiting on that, but I think a second place is a good start. And just as a heads up to anybody that go to iflagracer.com, I believe it is, you get 15% off if you use code SteelHorse. It's a nice little box there that gives you all the different flags in iRacing, checker, green, yellow. Really is a nice little feature to have. And I think that's everybody I can think of right now.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us. Thomas George coming home today in second place for a Steel Horse 1-2.
Thank you very much, Rachel. And the driver that came away third today was someone that started all the way in the back nearly in 20th spot. Skylar Shackelford tried to poke his way to the outside for a 3-wide finish. Skylar, how are you feeling about coming away with a top 3 here tonight?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm just kind of glad I finished the way that was looking at the end there. But, I mean, it was fun. I was kind of struggling at the beginning of that race because I couldn't suck up to the pack most of the race because being the last car in line, with this package, you can't really do anything.
What, in your opinion, got you away from being that last car in the line to up into the front group, especially after those green flag pit stops?
Well, really, it was the green flag pit stops that got me up there because I think me and my teammates pit a couple laps earlier than the rest of the leaders, and we were able to gain a few spots and put me right in the middle of the pack. They could make a good run for the end.
And at the end, let's talk about what was going through your mind. You were the first driver, I believe it was, in fact, to duck your way to the outside line to try and get something to go. What was going through your mind as you were coming towards the backstretch on the last lap?
Well, I had my teammate behind me. We were talking about this run that we were going to make for the last couple laps here, and we got the run out of 2, but by the time I got to the outside, the run kind of died out, and we just didn't really have anything left in the tank to get out of 4 with.
And now, at this point, you have to try and pack away the car and bring it off to Atlanta for the next race of the season, 110 laps. Mile-and-a-half circuit, very different beast compared to a super speedway. How do you and your team feel about that circuit?
I've ran pretty good there in the past. I'm pretty good there in the Cup cars. I think it's going to be a lot more skill-based, to be honest with you. It's going to be a lot looser, too, in my opinion.
Yeah, very slick track for those that have raced the track on the iRacing service. Anyone you want to thank before we let you go here tonight?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my teammates, both the 23 and the 24. We worked well together the whole race. Once we got hooked up at about lap 40 to 50, somewhere in that range, they helped me get to where I was at. And unfortunately, the 24 kind of got screwed up at the end there by somebody else. But other than that, it was a good race. I think we all worked well together, and hopefully we can do that in the future.
Thank you very much for the time, Skylar. Congratulations on the third place finish.
Thank you, guys.
Now Skylar Shackelford coming away third tonight here in the Daytona 250. As the focus shifts over to the next part of the season, the second race of the season. Many different teams and drivers call the races after Daytona where the real season starts. Atlanta, Las Vegas, ISM, Auto Club are all 4 straight races as the series follows its way through the Cup Series schedule throughout a majority of this year's season. Where do you go from here, essentially, for this season?
Well, it's a difficult position to be in. I mean, this is one of those races you can't base your season on because it's such a wild card in Daytona. So it's about making sure you have the right mentality just to go to the season as normal.
And what is on your mind for if you're, say, those drivers once you get to Atlanta next week?
Welcome to a whole different racetrack.
Exactly. With that, it's time to say goodbye to everyone. We'd like to thank once again our sponsors in Joel Real Timing and iRacing for being a part of today's coverage, as well as Sim Racers for Mental Health once more, the presenting sponsor of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. Of course, Sim Racers for Mental Health created in 2018 to spread awareness for mental health challenges for those affected in the sim racing community, dealing with and provide support when necessary. With that, it's time to say goodbye here on iRacing Esports Network and from LSR TV. For Rachel Whiteford, for Hugo Wees, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Have a wonderful rest of your night. We'll see you for race number 2 at Atlanta Motor Speedway for 110 laps, February the 25th. Have a wonderful night, everybody.